You mentioned Einstein. What is your take on him? If he wasn't born that moment, would this stuff still have happened? Was he also a great showman? I know you come from a family of showmen. What do you see when you see the Einstein phenomenon? Because you're deep into it. You see more than I can see.
Well, I have a deep affection for Einstein. And look, he was a smart, smart dude, man. It's astounding when you look at our understanding of the world before him and after him. He changes our understanding of space, time, matter, energy, and gravity, right? That's a lot of stuff for one person to sort of reach out and reshape and remold. So undeniably the real deal in a massive way. But yeah, he did have also an intuition and understanding of how to work the media. And he was able to play up the mad scientist, the wild-eyed genius in a way that really worked. And look, his big discovery, the general theory of relativity, this was just after, it was in the midst of World War I. It was confirmed just after World War I. And the world needed a hero at that point. And I think he knew that the world needed a hero. And he was willing to be that hero. And he worked with the press and the media in such a way to become that hero. I think that was a kind of wonderful service to provide to humanity.
Yeah, he was quite media savvy.
Yeah.
Because he talked about non-scientific things too.
At times he did.
At least we hear those quotes all the time. He's maybe more famous for some of those.
Yeah, be careful about them. Some of
Okay.
them he didn't quite say.
Okay.
But many he did. And he really had a knack for finding things about the world that people would find deeply interesting, deeply mysterious, even if they didn't fully understand it. And that was a talent.
And he had the hair.
He did have the
and
hair.
the look. And
Yeah.
so he played that role, and
Yeah.
we needed someone. And it's nice to have someone that would have something that would unite us as a species, as a planet as well. So a perfect time. If he hadn't been born,
Right.
what would have happened?
Well, it's hard to say. With the special theory of relativity, his discovery in 1905 of the weirdness of space and time, there were others hot on the trail of that idea. In fact, Lorentz and Poincaré, other great thinkers of the time, wrote down the key equations of relativity before Einstein did. They just didn't understand what the equations were actually telling us about the world. Einstein's genius was to be able to throw away preconceived notions of space and time, look at the equations fresh, and interpret them in a radically new way, and that's why he is credited with the special theory of relativity. But I can't imagine that Lorentz and Poincaré wouldn't ultimately have gotten to that theory if Einstein had not gotten there first.
Okay.
With the general theory of relativity, it's less clear because Einstein was by himself working for 10 long years on a problem that everybody said to him, don't work on the force of gravity, it's too hard. In fact, Max Planck, famous physicist, said to Einstein, even if you succeed in understanding gravity, nobody will believe you. It's just too deep, it's too hard, and the ideas are too thick for our era to really take them on. And of course, when Einstein heard something like that, he was like, yes, I'm going to work on gravity. He was the ultimate iconoclast. So if you told him not to do something, he would do it. Maybe that was Planck's strategy. I don't know. I don't think so. And had he not come up with the general theory of relativity, at some point, would we have? I think so, but it could have been 50 years. It could have been 100 years. Some people say, well, there was this mathematician named David Hilbert who actually wrote down the equations of general relativity perhaps before Einstein, within a few days. But Einstein went to Hilbert in June of 1915 and told him everything that he'd already figured out. Hilbert went from there between June of 1915 and November to finish the final step, but he wouldn't have gotten to June of 1915 by himself. So again, it really was Einstein all the way on the general theory of relativity.
Wow, would we have an atomic bomb in the 40s without Einstein?
I think so. So Einstein wrote one of the first two papers on quantum mechanics. In fact, it's the paper that he won the Nobel Prize for on the so-called photoelectric effect. And it's a brilliant paper, but I'm quite certain that others would have come to these ideas. And it was others who developed quantum mechanics from that point forward, because Einstein was never a great fan of quantum physics. He didn't like the probabilistic nature. He didn't like other more esoteric qualities called entanglement. And therefore, he wasn't the driving force behind quantum physics, even though he was Einstein, so people would listen to him. And when he criticized the theory, that would help drive it forward as well, even though he wasn't the one who was pushing the frontier. So I do think that we would have had quantum physics, so I suspect that we would have had an atomic bomb. In fact, Einstein himself was deeply saddened by the fact that he was sometimes called the father of the atomic bomb. He was called that because he wrote the famous letter to Roosevelt about the need to try to build this weapon. And E equals mc squared is an equation that people use to determine atomic yields. But he wasn't driving the atomic bomb. And to call him the father of the atomic bomb was really incorrect.
It's interesting how, again, we get into ethics and humanity through physics with like Oppenheimer and all the work he did on the atomic bomb, and then later how he regretted it and held this big conscience. It's funny how you guys somehow are at the core of humanity too. You know?
Well, look, when you are at the forefront of research and you are grabbing hold of the reins of reality, able to, as Freeman Dyson, who just recently died, described it, lift 1 million tons of rock into the sky, which is what an atomic bomb can do. You know, it's intoxicating, and you can easily put aside the ethical ramifications of what you're working on, but ultimately, as a human being, you come back to it. And these individuals, at least a good number of them from the Manhattan Project, did come back to the realization of what their work had wrought on the world.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff. My dad went to Caltech, and he learned freshman physics from Richard Feynman, who taught I think, in the early 60s. And he was obviously at Los Alamos at a very young age.
Yes.
Would you have loved to be on the Manhattan Project in some way or not? And what do you make of all that?
Wow. I've never been asked that. And what's my gut reaction? My gut reaction is that if I was there at the time and I had the opportunity to go, I would have gone. Because it really would have felt being part of a group of individuals seeking to grasp matter and energy at the deepest possible level. I think I would probably have had the naive hope, because that's how I am, that we would never use this weapon. Just the threat of this weapon, or maybe just the demonstration of this weapon, would be enough. I would have been probably overly optimistic about what we would do with the results of this research, and therefore I think I would have been part of it.